Greetings, everyone. This is Richard Crevo with the chart drill down for March 24th, 2016. As we go forward, if you have any questions about any of the indicators I use on my charts or why they're set up the way they are, please refer to the May 11th YouTube video entitled Chart Tutorial for an explanation. If you still have any questions about the charts or about this particular YouTube video, please feel free to email me with those questions at rcrevofx@gmail.com. Now, remember, these charting drill downs are instructional and they are designed to show you how I go about identifying higher probability trading pairs. Any of the setups by no means should be taken as an indication that they will ultimately turn into a winning trade. We're strictly talking about probabilities. That's what trading is all about. I'm simply showing you what has worked for me, and it may or may not work for you, frankly. Remember, a huge part of trading is the psychology of trading, the mindset of each individual trader. Given that, my mindset is likely different from the mindset that each of you have as you approach your trading. And consequently, we're likely to experience different results. Now, be sure to take a look at the videos on this channel regarding the psychology of trading to get more insight into this particular area. What we're doing here in these chart drill downs is but one aspect of trading. It's identifying an entry on a currency pair that has a higher probability of success. It's an important aspect of trading for sure, but it is just a single aspect. Other aspects of successful trading are money management, managing the trade after it's open, and perhaps the most important of all, as I mentioned before, the psychological background of the mindset of the trader who's engaging in the trading at the time. And as just mentioned, trading is all about probabilities, identifying a trading edge to provide us with a higher probability of trading success. The more of those edges we identify and implement other components of successful trading along with that edge, the greater the likelihood we will be profitable at the end of a week, a month, a quarter, a year. Okay, with that, let's take a quick peek at the disclaimers. I'm not going to read them word for word. Just be aware that trading involves significant levels of risk. You should only be trading with risk capital, and that's money that you absolutely can afford to lose. Remember, leverage can work for you and against you, and the content of these sessions is provided for informational and educational purposes only, not intended as specific trading recommendations. Okay, now let's take a look at the charts. And as you may recall, I use a strong weak currency analysis to point me in the direction of the pairs that are in the stronger trends. Should you want to know more about that, how I go about doing it, again, email me at rcrevofx@gmail.com. Now, the most recent strong weak analysis that I did, which was about maybe 30 minutes ago, indicated that the Australian dollar was the strongest currency and the British pound was the weakest. So with that, my first stop as I drill down the charts, armed with that information, I go to the chart of the pound Aussie. So the way my charts are set up, I've got four here, multiple time frame analysis. I've got the weekly chart right here. I've got the daily chart where my cursor is now, 4-hour and 1-hour chart. And I've got the Donchian channels and 200 period moving average and slow stochastics set to 15, 5, and 5. Now, I mentioned that the pound is the weakest and the Australian dollar is the strongest. So as I can see here on the weekly chart, price action touched the upper Donchian channel here back in August of 2015, quite a while back, but has continued to make lower highs, lower lows, took out the lower Donchian channel, has been moving down. Looking at the weekly chart, pairs in a downtrend. Looking at the daily chart, we can see a similar type of scenario. Touched the upper Donchian channel and has continually taken out the lower Donchian channel, moving further and further down. So based on the two longest term charts that I have in my charting array here, we see the pairs in a downtrend. Therefore, I only want to be looking for opportunities to short this particular pair. I then go to a shorter time frame chart, either the 4-hour or the 1-hour, to make a determination as to where my entry is going to be. The 4-hour chart, I like the look of the 4-hour at this point. Let's expand that a little bit. And we can see that price has retraced a bit, taken out the lower channel, and has in the process of retracing again. Now, I've got two opportunities for an entry here. One is using Donchian channel strategy to enter the trade short at 1.8589. Ideally, what I like to do is set a price alarm at that level so I'm alerted to the fact that price is kind of flirting with that level a little bit. And then I can take a look at the charts and see if the pound is weakening across the board or the Australian dollar is strengthening across the board at that point in time, which will lend greater validity to my entering at that point. This would be a Donchian channel strategy entry, setting up the price alarm or setting an entry order at roughly 85.89. A more aggressive trader might forego the Donchian channel at the lower level there, and knowing that the pair is in a downtrend, saying, okay, I want to get in this trade right below these two wicks right here. So if price attacks that level at 87.37, I could set a price alarm at that level to be alerted to see what's going on. This is a more aggressive entry. There's a probability of success simply because the pair is moving down. There's a greater probability of success if and when price action takes out the previous low. This is not the previous low right here, but you could look there, and by clicking our ruler icon, we could see that if a trader got short at that level and it traded down to the previous low, that would be about 148 pips at that point. Now, what I like to do once I determine where I'm going to set my price alarm or where I might place my entry order is I go to the weekly chart to see, okay, let's say I get short at that point. How much room to run does this particular currency pair have? I'm going down, so I want to see where the next level of support is. The next level of support would be back here at roughly 183.69, this low right here. And at that point, I can take a look and see roughly that at that level, that's about 364 pips. I'd be interested in getting a part of that price action if possible, if and when price moves down to that level. So kind of in a nutshell, multiple time frame analysis, Donchian channels, that's what I'm looking at. Okay, let's take a look at another pair here. And again, we said the pound was the weakest, the Aussie was the strongest. Let's look at the pound Canadian currency pair, as the pound is obviously still the weakest and the Canadian dollar is the next strongest. So same scenario. We're looking at a weekly chart. It's made lower highs and lower lows on the weekly chart. It's making lower highs and lower lows on the daily chart. So I'm looking for a place to short this particular currency pair. And again, I could look at the lower channel. I could set a price alarm at roughly, 1.8500, somewhere in that vicinity, and come back and take a look at the charts and see what's going on. Again, is the pound weakening across the board? Is the Canadian dollar strengthening across the board? This all has to do with strong weak analysis. If you want to know more about that, again, email me and say strong weak analysis in the subject line. I'll be sure to send you that particular information. So essentially what I'm looking at is for the strongest trending pairs, because in the currency market, pairs that are in trends tend to trend for a long period of time, longer than in some of the other markets. So I want to take advantage of that piece of knowledge. Okay, let's take a look at another Aussie pair. We said the Aussie is the strongest. The US dollar right now happens to be the weakest currency. That being said, let's take a look at the Aussie US dollar. Okay, weekly chart is showing us touch the lower channel, has taken out the upper, higher highs, higher lows. So we're in an uptrend on the weekly chart. Notice the questions always come up about the 200 period moving average. Richard, because you're not above that 200 period moving average on the weekly chart, you still want to go long. Yeah, I mean, we're above the 200 period moving average on the daily. It's going to take quite a while on the weekly chart for it to get above. The weekly chart is definitely my longer term time frame that I take a look at. The daily, though, is a nice, how shall I say, interim chart time frame. And admittedly, I trade longer term, so I'm looking at longer term charts. I know people who might trade off a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, are looking at me or looking at this these these charts and going, "Oh my God, he's looking at a weekly chart. I trade off a 5-minute." That's fine. There's a lot of different ways to trade. Point being here, on both my longer term charts that I look at, we're in an uptrend on the Aussie US dollar. That being said, I'm looking for places to get into the trade going long. One that I would see on the 4-hour chart is again here at set a price alarm roughly at 76.80, 0.7680. Come look at the situation, see what's going on. Again, a more aggressive trader, rather than waiting for that upper channel to be breached, they might decide to get in. See prices moving up here. They might decide to go long once it sets a new high at this point, maybe 75.45, somewhere in that area. And at that point, till it gets to the previous high, they're looking at 137 pips. So again, it's a more aggressive trade. It's a valid trading scenario. It's less likely to succeed, however, than by waiting for price to take out the previous high. Again, you're getting in earlier, so you're getting the opportunity for more pips, and you're placing your stop closer to your entry, so there's less risk in that regard, but it's always a trade-off. Here, you're getting a higher probability trade, but your stop is going to be a greater distance from your entry, so you're going to have more risk on the table, if you will, in that particular scenario. Okay, let's look at, let's say, the Aussie yen. Aussie's the strongest. Yen is the third weakest currency. Let's see what the Aussie yen is showing us. Okay, this is a little choppier, rangy. So we're looking at almost like a ranging situation here on the daily chart. The trend is not as strong here as we would suspect, because the scenario bringing in the strong weak analysis, the currencies, the individual currencies, the Aussie and yen, one's not the weakest and one is not the absolute strongest. The Aussie is the strongest, but the yen is the third weakest, as opposed to the weakest, which was the pound dollar. So we would not expect the trend to be quite as great in this situation. And we can see somewhat of a ranginess on the daily chart, and naturally we're going to see a little bit of a ranginess also on the 4-hour chart. That being said, with a trend trading strategy, this is likely something that I would not be looking at this point for a trend trading strategy. Let's look at one more currency pair here. We can take a look at. Let's take a look at the pound Swiss. Pound being the weakest again, the Swiss franc being the third strongest. Okay, again, downtrend, touch the upper channel on the weekly, lower highs, lower lows as we continue to move to the downside. Again, we have a situation where it touched the upper channel, price action touched the upper channel on the pound Swiss on the daily back here on February the 3rd, and has continued to make lower highs and lower lows. So I'd be interested in shorting the pair. And in this situation, I could look at setting a price alarm on the 4-hour chart at roughly 37.20, and that would be the same 37.20 that we have on the 1-hour chart. So I could set a price alarm at that point. Again, price alarm goes off. I come back, I look at the charts and see what's going on as far as pound weakening across the board, Swiss franc strengthening across the board. Okay, that's how I go about looking for trades. Hopefully you picked up some information in there that can help you in your own particular trading. And also feel free to email me with any questions that you have on currency trading at rcrivofx@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and look forward to communicating with you soon. Bye now.